As agreed a year ago at Hudaybiya, the Prophet Muhammad told his companions to make preparations for Umrah, the minor pilgrimage. He said that except for those who had passed away, no one from those who had been at Hudaybiya should be left behind. 2,000 people, not including the children, began the journey from Medina to Kaaba. They were going to show the entire world how to really worship there. The Prophet dressed in his ihram, the two-piece white garment, at the door of the Grand Mosque and began uttering the supplication of Talbiyah. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika laka labbaik, innal hamda wan ni'mata laka wal mulk la sharika lak. It was the 4th day of the month of Zulhijjah. Being loyal to the agreement that had made with the Quraysh, Muslims entered Mecca without weapons. While the animals marked for sacrifice in front, Muslims were returning to the sacred place that they had left 7 years ago. They were going to stay in Mecca for 3 days according to the agreement. Meanwhile, the Quraysh were gossiping about the companions, saying that they were not able to walk after the long journey. Before greeting Hajar al-Aswad, the black stone on the corner of the Kaaba, the Prophet took one end of his ihram under his arm and opened his right shoulder, and let the other end rest on his left one. He also advised his companions to show themselves strong and look in a way that will cause the Meccans distress. He wanted to show the polytheists who is strong and mighty and who is not. That's why he asked the Muslims, especially in the first 3 rounds of their circumambulation, to walk strongly and put their chest forward. Of course, the pagans were unable to hide their surprise by what they saw. The polytheists went up to the mountains to observe the Muslims around the Kaaba. When it was time for the noon prayer, the Prophet asked Bilal Habashi to make the adhan, the call to prayer. The polytheists watching the Muslims circumambulate the Kaaba were startled by this voice that they were hearing for the very first time. Everything was going according to articles of the agreement that had signed at Hudaybiya. At one point, the Prophet Muhammad requested to enter the Kaaba, but Meccan leaders got angry and said there was no such an article in the agreement and refused his request. Therefore, the Prophet Muhammad completed his circumambulation, went back and forth between the hills of Safa and Marwa, and slaughtered the sacrificial animals, and finally shaved his head. Now the Umrah, the minor pilgrimage, was completed. Although the Prophet Muhammad wanted to stay longer in Mecca, the Meccan leaders said, "Your time is up. In the agreement we made with you, there is no such an alternative than leaving our land at once." So the Prophet Muhammad gave the order to travel back to Medina.